Welcome to the HumanizEDU podcast. I'm Sandy Herrera. My sister, Dr. Stacy Herrera, and I are on a mission to bring the human back to the center of education.
Through our authentic, human-centered conversations, we hope to inspire you to take ownership of your life, mental well-being, and culture transformation journey.
Our conversations range from the wild and windy roads our guests have navigated throughout their careers, to the inspiring stories of overcoming the myriad of challenges within education today.
We hope you'll join us every month as we bring on exceptional guests who are creating a ripple of impact within the world of education, making a difference in the lives of students and staff every day.
Welcome everybody. I don't know if that worked either. Okay, so.
Here's the plan.
Yes.
We're going to talk about education today.
Okay.
And we're going to talk about what we're seeing in education and really how long we've been looking at education and helping those in learning environments and
Great.
what's that perspective for us.
So many years looking at the field of education from having small children,
Being a student.
being a student, started there, right? The full immersion experience, and then into our professions at this point, and serving educators and students and families to get the most out of the system of education.
Definitely.
And the last 4 years, we were just joking about this, there's a lot of us that have been, we were on Zoom for a period of time, some of us are still on Zoom the majority of the time. There's just this weird world that's mixing between the virtual space and the in-person space, and how are we navigating all of that as, looking towards the future of education, but I think kind of starting with where we've come from and why we're so passionate about this work that we get to do. Mm-hmm. There's so many layers to my level of passion for this work that started with my deep-rooted mommy fire to then walking out of the school that I was volunteering in one day saying, I can't not do this work. And, I know yours stems from a similar place.
I've been volunteering in the classroom from an early age. I was pulled in as a 5th and 6th grader to help kindergartners and always knew that I wanted to be in education and once thought I wanted to be a teacher until I actually taught at an elementary school while I was in Russia. But recognizing that without substantial training on classroom management, it's really hard to teach. And so knowing that the behaviors and how one feels in the classroom can really get in the way of learning. And so to recognizing that when I wanted to go back to school and I really understand how the brain works and how children learn and how I could best support them in more of a one-on-one setting as opposed to being up in front of the classroom. And as a school psychologist, being trained and watching and talking with educators and listening to students and recognizing that our educational system is not serving everyone. And we're in this kind of messy middle space before we get to these individualized learning pathways that I think will really ignite that inner love of learning for everyone.
I love seeing that future vision and knowing what's coming and what's possible is what keeps me doing this work on the days when it's really hard. On the days when I'm working with a team of educators and I hear their stories and I feel their struggle and I feel that messy middleness of this is just too much, and having the mass exodus of teacher attrition hurts my heart. And I know because every individual that I talk to that's left their profession is like, yeah, I feel better, but a piece of me is missing in not being able to serve students. And so being able to again, stay future focused with the work that we're doing, but also we're in the trenches with the families and the students and the educators, guiding and coaching and mentoring and really getting us to this place where it's like we can take our power back. We can actually pull our shoulders out of our ears and get to this place where we're going to create the future of education with the human at the center.
Yes.
and we're not going to lose that because we can't not do this work. And I think there's many like us that we're going to bring into this podcast as well.
Agreed. That's my real hope for this podcast, is that we have guests who are able to really tell the story around how things are going well,
Right.
and what is working for individuals, individual classrooms, individual educators, individual schools, districts that are doing really cool, innovative work to really foster that connection, that
So much
relationship
is happening, yeah.
that is so vital to creating psychologically safe spaces and supporting the love of learning for everyone in the building. And to find those individuals, I'm really excited about that piece, so that we can be real and raw about what is currently happening. Yes, we're not going to gloss over that, but it gives us a chance to say, okay, but what goodness can we take from all of the disruption in education, and what can we move forward with? Because I think not only educators but parents are having more and more choice and opportunity to choose those individual learning pathways for their children. It can be so overwhelming. Like, where do you start?
Yeah, how do you choose? How do you choose? And even, when our kids were going through school and being able to have conversations with Hunter, like, hey bud, like, I recognize the system of education is not serving you, and which teachers are you connecting with, and how can he use his natural brainware and strength to actually succeed within the current system, and trying to teach and coach him along those skills and those strategies, and at the same time saying, I recognize that the system isn't serving you, so what are our other options, and how can we got to the place where it was like, how can we have you graduate early? Like, let's accelerate this in a way where he could actually exit high school 6 months early. I didn't know the pandemic was coming, but that was good timing for him to not have to navigate that as well when he was already struggling. And so just having parents know that they have a voice and that they have choices, and guiding them. So there's so many different facets that I'm excited about what we're doing and what we're building together. And like, I don't know that we would have come together had we not kind of taken our own independent journeys to now be where we're at personally and professionally. Do you want to chat a little bit about that winding, crazy road of
My focus
sisterhood?
has always been on children, right? Everything that I've invested in, whether it be my own or through volunteerism or through my professional endeavors, has been focused on children and helping them find that inner spark and that love of themselves and their environments and what they're capable of. And to, I think, get to a place to recognize that it's not only supporting the students in the building, it's supporting the educators that are serving those students. And oftentimes I was pulled into consultations with teachers and trying to provide wisdom, but it wasn't until that November when I approached the principal at Imagine School at Northport, Alicia, and I said, so listen, my sister's coming into town, she does this really cool culture transformation work, and I just think, we've done some great work with the students, but maybe the teachers need some support. And to see how, what are we in the fifth, sixth?
Something like that. Yeah, that was, I think we're going into 6 now.
Yes, so now that we're in the 6th year and recognizing that by supporting everyone holistically and creating this culture of well-being within the school setting, like, it's an amazing way to bring our passions together. And I'll let you speak a little bit.
Yeah, I'm so grateful for that introduction, because it has blossomed and really allowed my work to accelerate working with such dynamic educators at that school and everywhere, and just really expanded my scope of what's possible, and really having them dream with me into what they've created as well. But really starting with the science of happiness with them and introducing that to them, and having them really think about the pillars and where each segment of their school community was in terms of the science of happiness and each of the 5 pillars, through the lens of their support professionals, through the lens of their staff, through the lens of their families, their students, and them as administrators. And then really getting to that place where we got some really good momentum in working with their culture. And I really appreciated you being in all of those trainings it actually surprised me, by the way, because it wasn't designed on my side to have you present. I absolutely welcomed and loved having you there, and it allowed for, I think, the depth of our conversations to grow in how our work really meshes well together when we look at the whole system. And the piece of my culture work that I've always included was having the students establish their own individual core values and then having those become part of the common language. But a lot of my work really focuses on the adults in the building and how the leadership teams, create these stable, unified teams within themselves. Because if the leadership team is not consistent and unified, then nothing else is working within the school. So being able to be in that space and then watching the results because of our work independently and then how we crossed over in some of those leadership meetings, the sustainability of it that we witnessed as this elementary charter school was really navigating through the highs and lows of education, and then we tackled the pandemic with them, and then a major hurricane hit the area, and then it was like one thing after another, and their culture has just stayed so strong and solid. And even through attrition and some changes in leadership and their attraction of good humans has created this trust and this flow of resources and opportunities and families who are like, I'm in with you guys, what do you need? And it's just been really beautiful to see, and I know that on your side you've seen some really massive gains in their students too.
Well, the ripple of impact, right? Once you engage families and that it becomes this kind of circle of trust around each individual student, it's easier to have conversations about, my student's really struggling in this class, and there's no one to blame. Let's rally around the student. Let's really figure out where the skill deficit is. So it moves from this, that student is behaving badly, let's remove them, to that student is behaving in such a way that's communicating to us that we need to provide different training or provide teaching around the skill that's missing. Like what is getting in the way of that student being successful in that classroom? And for the teachers to lean all in, and not only learn how to communicate with their students so that their students felt safer in their classrooms, but then for some of them to come to me and say, I've done my own kind of self-exploration, and the way that you were querying me to help this one student really allowed me to kind of reflect on my own upbringing, like my own way of managing and navigating difficulties in life, and to really wrap around them as a whole. Because once an adult can see how they themselves benefit from the communication training, the relationship building, then they're better able to shift and see the perspective of the student, and then to infuse in that student, or at least give them a bird's eye view of this is what it could look like if you were able to shift this behavior. How would that feel? Or if you're able to sit and attend more in the classroom, what could you be learning? And how could we reward you for loving learning? Because that makes the teacher's job so much easier.
Exactly. When you have students who are excited to be there and excited to learn and absorb, and you have that mutual respect, and you're there for the same purpose. So really kind of witnessing that, and kind of back to our original thought of why we went down this conversation, is the power of really putting our work together from a school psychologist perspective and from culture transformation perspective. And when we married them, and the sustainability over the last 5, now 6 years, has allowed us to really go, why are we not partnering in all schools? Why are we not? And we didn't have a good reason to not, other than the logistics of where we both live. And so we're making that work and figuring it out and navigating and building a virtual team, and it's really coming together beautiful. I'm super excited to see where we're going to grow to be able to impact more schools.
Yeah, to think that it started, a little bit in Nevada and a little bit in Florida, and now that it's branching, and now that we're talking to global partners, and just that ability to impact education in a really positive way that gives everyone that sense of power over their own learning.
Right. Adults and children alike.
Exactly. Right? Teachers love to learn.
Right. Sometimes they forget that.
Yes. And so it's as long as we're not pushing on them and putting demands on them that are not child-centered and don't spark their own interest in their love of learning, that's when I see all of the cracks in the foundation. But when we are truly honoring that inner love of learning, we can do great things.
Absolutely. I'm really excited as we begin to really accelerate this podcast and invite some amazing guests on to be able to share with, like you were saying, their passion, their purpose, and highlight some of the brilliant work that's being done right now, despite being in the messy middle. And I think it's going to be an amazing ride as we take this journey together. And super grateful that I hit the sister lottery and we get to do this work together, and we get to play in the sandbox, and like we used to play office as kids, and now we're actually doing it in a way where we can, my wish is that we're able to make some global change.
Yes. And really have our legacy as the Herrera sisters just ripple throughout, and recognize that just touching each individual that's on the podcast, each educator, each student that comes within our sphere, and just kind of feel how it magnifies, I think is really exciting. And so with that, we hope that you will share with us anyone who is in the educational field, who's written a book, who as a parent has navigated some interesting pathways. Share with us. We would love to have them on the podcast. We're really excited to kind of round out everyone who is a stakeholder in education.
Absolutely.
I'm totally open to having high school students, college students, well-articulated middle school students on the podcast, so that we can really hear from them. What is working? What is not working? What do they see for the foreseeable future in education? Because there are times when I sit across from a client in therapy and they're just struggling in our current system. And at times I have to say that this isn't the right fit, but it's the best we can do for now. How can we at least make it tolerable so you can walk away with what you need to go through your next phase of life?
Absolutely. And the more that we can create this ripple of impact and really allow each individual to be seen, heard, and valued for the unique, amazing humans that you all are, that's our wish. And I'm excited to be on this journey with you.
Yes, exactly.
Thanks, everybody.
Good to see you.
Thank you for listening, learning, and growing with us here on the HumanizEDU podcast as we reignite the love of learning.
Remember to give us a like and subscribe to hear more. Wishing you a beautiful day on purpose.